Commander Jake Morrison stood at the observation deck of Sentinel Station, watching the stars with tired eyes. Another quiet night shift in Earth's orbit. He sipped his coffee and checked the time. 3 hours until his replacement arrived. The peace shattered in an instant. Space itself seemed to tear apart as massive ships emerged from nowhere. Jake dropped his coffee mug as alarms screamed throughout the station. The alien vessels were enormous, each one bigger than a city. Their dark hulls reflected no light, making them look like holes cut from reality itself. Alert stations. This is not a drill. Jake shouted into his comm unit as he ran toward the command center. His boots echoed through the metal corridors while red warning lights flashed overhead. On Luna, Admiral Lisa Kane was having breakfast when her aide burst into her quarters. "Admiral, we have a situation. Multiple large contacts just appeared around Earth." Lisa pulled on her uniform and rushed to the lunar command center. The main screen showed dozens of alien ships surrounding her home planet. Each vessel was at least 10 kilometers long, bristling with weapons that humanity had never seen before. "Get me Captain Bell," she ordered, "and wake up everyone. We need our entire fleet ready now." Captain Ryan Bell was already awake aboard the UES Defiance when the emergency signal reached him. His ship was part of Earth's outer patrol, cruising near Mars when the aliens arrived. He could see their massive forms on his screens, dark and threatening against the star field. "All ships, this is Bell. Form up on my position. We're going in." His crew worked quickly to prepare their weapons. The Defiance was a good ship, one of humanity's best, but it looked tiny compared to the alien vessels. Bell knew this would be a hard fight, but he had to try. The alien ships did not wait long to show their intentions. Beams of purple energy lanced out from their weapons, striking Earth's orbital platforms. Sentinel Station shook as enemy fire hit its shields. Jake felt the deck vibrate under his feet as the station's defenses fired back. "Their shields are too strong," his weapons officer reported. "Our missiles aren't getting through." On the lunar command center, Admiral Kane watched in horror as Earth's defenses crumbled. The orbital platforms that had protected humanity for decades were being destroyed one by one. Each explosion meant hundreds of lives lost. "Can we break through their blockade?" she asked her tactical officer. "Negative, Admiral. They have ships positioned at every jump point. Nothing gets in or out." Dr. Elena Vasquez was working late in her laboratory on Luna when the attack began. As a scientist who studied alien life, she had always wondered when humanity would meet other species. She never imagined it would be like this. Her computer beeped with an incoming transmission. The signal was alien, but her translation software managed to decode parts of it. What she read made her blood run cold. "Another primitive world," the message said. "Harvest the useful ones. Dispose of the rest. Standard procedure." Elena's hand shook as she saved the recording. These aliens saw humans as nothing more than animals to be collected. They had done this before to other worlds, other species. Captain Bell's fleet engaged the enemy near Mars. The human ships darted between the massive alien vessels like insects attacking elephants. Their weapons fired constantly, trying to find weak spots in the alien armor. "Focus fire on their engine sections," Bell ordered. His ship shook as enemy beams passed close by. The Defiance rolled and dived, using every trick Bell knew to stay alive. One by one, his ships were destroyed. The Edinburgh vanished in a ball of fire when alien missiles found their mark. The Cairo lasted longer, but enemy beams finally cut through its hull. Bell watched good ships and brave crews die while barely scratching the alien armor. "Sir, we can't win this fight," his first officer said quietly. Bell knew he was right, but he couldn't abandon Earth. "All remaining ships fall back to the outer system. We'll regroup and try again." Back on Earth, cities burned under alien bombardment. The creatures had no interest in occupying the planet intact. They simply wanted to break human resistance before beginning their harvest. In New York, people ran through streets filled with smoke and falling debris. The alien ships hung in the sky like dark clouds, raining death on everything below. Military units tried to fight back, but their weapons could not reach targets in orbit. Jake Morrison's station was dying around him. Half the crew was dead, and the other half was trying to reach the escape pods. Sentinel Station had been humanity's pride, a symbol of their reach into space. Now it was just another wreck floating in Earth's orbit. "Abandon station," Jake ordered. He was the last one to leave, making sure his people got away safely. As his escape pod drifted toward Earth, he watched the alien ships position themselves around his home world. The blockade was complete. Earth was cut off from the rest of the solar system. No ships could leave, no help could arrive. Humanity was trapped on their own planet with enemies who saw them as nothing more than useful animals. But something was happening in Earth's deepest places. Far below the ocean surface, in trenches that no human had ever explored, ancient machines stirred to life. They had waited for millions of years, sleeping in the darkness, programmed to activate when Earth faced its greatest danger. The alien attack had triggered sensors buried in the planet's core. Systems older than human civilization began their slow awakening. The invaders thought they had conquered another primitive world, but they were wrong. Earth had secrets that no one suspected. The planet itself was more than it appeared to be, and now with humanity facing extinction, those secrets were beginning to wake up. In the depths of the ocean, things that had slept since before the first human walked upright started to move. The blockade was complete, but the real war was just beginning. The aliens had made one crucial mistake. They thought Earth was defenseless. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Professor Nathan Cross had been studying the ocean floor for 20 years, but he had never seen anything like this. His research vessel, the Deep Explorer, floated above the Mariana Trench while his instruments went crazy with strange readings. "Professor, you need to see this," called his assistant, Jenny Walsh. She pointed at the sonar display showing massive structures rising from the deepest parts of the ocean. These weren't natural formations. They were too regular, too organized. "How big are they?" Nathan asked, adjusting his glasses as he studied the data. "Each structure is over a mile across," Jenny replied. "And they're still growing. Something down there is building itself up from the ocean floor." Above them, alien ships continued their bombardment of Earth's cities. The blockade had been in place for 3 days now, and humanity was losing hope. But Nathan suspected the ocean disturbances were connected to the alien arrival. The timing was too perfect to be coincidence. Lieutenant Colonel Beth Rodriguez led her Special Forces team through the underwater facility they had discovered near Hawaii. Her soldiers moved carefully through corridors filled with strange blue light. The walls were covered in symbols that hurt to look at directly. "This place is old," said Sergeant Mike Torres, running his hand along the smooth wall surface. "Really old. Older than anything humans ever built." Beth nodded, checking her instruments. The facility was definitely not human, but it wasn't alien either. The architecture was different from both human and the enemy designs they had studied. This was something else entirely. "Movement ahead," whispered Corporal Lisa Park, raising her weapon. But what they found wasn't dangerous. It was a vast chamber filled with floating holographic displays. As soon as Beth entered the room, the displays activated, showing images of space, galaxies, and species she didn't recognize. Dr. Elena Vasquez worked frantically to decode the alien communications she had intercepted, but now she was also studying new signals coming from Earth itself. Deep underground transmissions were activating all over the planet. Ancient systems that had been silent for millennia were suddenly talking to each other. "Admiral Kane," she called over the comm system, "I'm detecting massive energy signatures from sites all over Earth. They match the quantum frequencies we've been seeing from the ocean disturbances." "Admiral," Kane studied the reports from her lunar command center. Earth was changing. Satellites showed energy patterns emerging from the deepest places on the planet. The Sahara Desert, the Amazon rainforest, the Himalayas, all showed signs of ancient technology activating. "Could this be some kind of human defense system?" she asked Elena. "I don't think so," Elena replied. "The technology is too advanced, and the energy signatures are older than our species, much older." In the underwater facility, Beth's team discovered a central chamber containing what looked like a massive computer core. The moment she approached it, the system recognized her presence and began projecting images directly into her mind. She saw Earth as it was millions of years ago, covered in cities built by creatures that looked nothing like humans. These beings, tall and graceful with silver skin, were fighting a desperate war against something that came from the spaces between stars. The silver beings called themselves the Vanguard. Their enemies were creatures of living darkness that consumed entire galaxies, leaving nothing but empty space behind. The Vanguard had lost their war, but before they died, they prepared one final weapon. They chose Earth as the location for their greatest creation. The planet sat at the intersection of multiple dimensions, making it the perfect place to build a fortress that could guard against threats from other realities. But their weapon would only activate when Earth's native intelligent species reached the right level of development and faced extinction. Beth gasped as the visions ended. Her team was staring at her with concern, but she had to share what she had learned. "Contact Admiral Kane immediately," she ordered. "Earth isn't just our home. It's a weapon, and we're the ones meant to use it." Captain Ryan Bell floated in his damaged ship near Jupiter, watching repair crews work on the Defiance. His fleet was down to 12 ships from the original 50. The aliens had let them retreat, probably because they posed no real threat anymore. But strange things were happening to his remaining crews. Several pilots reported dreams of flying ships that bent space around them. Engineers found themselves understanding technology they had never seen before. It was as if knowledge was being downloaded directly into their minds. "Captain," his chief engineer called over the comm, "you need to see this. The hull breach on Deck 7 just sealed itself. The metal actually grew back together. That's impossible with our technology." Bell went to investigate and found that his engineer was right. The damaged section looked like it had never been hit. The metal was different too, stronger and somehow alive. It pulsed with a faint energy that felt warm to the touch. Nathan Cross and his team descended in a deep-sea submersible toward the structures they had discovered. As they got closer, they could see that the formations were actually buildings, perfectly preserved after millions of years underwater. "Professor, these structures are responding to our presence," Jenny reported from her instruments. "Energy levels are increasing the closer we get." They docked with what appeared to be an entrance, and to their amazement, the ancient facility recognized their human biology and allowed them entry. Inside, they found archives containing the complete history of the Vanguard civilization. The records showed that the Vanguard had seeded hundreds of worlds with defensive systems, but Earth was special. Here they had built something that could not only defend against their ancient enemies, but could also evolve and grow stronger over time. The system was designed to work with Earth's native intelligent species, enhancing their natural abilities and giving them access to technology that spanned multiple dimensions. But it would only activate when that species faced complete extinction. Meanwhile, on Earth's surface, people began experiencing changes. A factory worker in Detroit found that he could see through solid metal when alien patrols were nearby. A nurse in London discovered she could heal wounds with just her touch. A farmer in Kansas learned that he could make crops grow instantly by thinking about them. The changes were subtle at first, but they were spreading. Every human who survived the alien bombardment seemed to develop some kind of new ability. It was as if the planet itself was teaching them how to fight back. Dr. Vasquez made the connection first. The quantum frequencies from the ancient sites matched the brainwave patterns of humans who had developed new abilities. Earth's defensive system wasn't just activating, it was recruiting humanity to operate it. "Admiral," she told Lisa Kane over their secure channel, "the planet is choosing us. The Vanguard built Earth as a weapon, but they needed someone to wield it. We're not just defenders of Earth, we're its inheritors." As if in response to her words, new signals erupted from every continent. Ancient installations that had hidden themselves for millions of years began to reveal their locations. The Vanguard had left humanity everything they needed to win this war. They just had to learn how to use it. Dr. Elena Vasquez stared at the translated Vanguard files that had taken her 3 sleepless days to decode. The ancient records revealed truths that changed everything humanity thought they knew about their world. Earth was not just a planet. It was the most sophisticated weapon system ever created, designed to protect reality itself from threats that existed between dimensions. The planet's magnetic field, its rotation, even the arrangement of its continents, everything was part of a massive machine built by the Vanguard before their extinction. "The entire planet is artificial," Elena whispered to herself as she read. The Vanguard had taken a lifeless world and transformed it into a fortress, then seeded it with life that would eventually evolve into the species destined to operate their creation. Commander Jake Morrison crouched in the ruins of Chicago, leading a group of survivors through the bombed-out streets. The alien occupation had turned Earth's cities into hunting grounds where humans were captured for slavery. But Jake had been experiencing strange visions that helped him avoid enemy patrols. The visions showed him things that shouldn't be possible. He could see through walls, sense alien movements from blocks away, and somehow knew exactly where the enemy would strike next. At first he thought he was losing his mind, but the visions kept saving lives. "Commander, how did you know they would attack the hospital?" asked Maria Santos, a young medic who had joined his group. Jake didn't have a good answer. The knowledge just appeared in his mind like memories that belonged to someone else. I don't know, but we need to trust these feelings. They're keeping us alive. What Jake didn't realize was that he was accessing genetic memories planted by the Vanguard millions of years ago. As Earth's defensive systems awakened, they were unlocking hidden potential in human DNA, preparing the species for a war their creators had foreseen, but never lived to fight. In a hidden laboratory beneath the ruins of MIT, technician Sam Collins was trying to repair damaged equipment when something impossible happened. An alien patrol burst through the walls, weapons raised and ready to capture him. Sam felt a surge of panic and instinctively reached for something that wasn't there. The world shifted around him. The laboratory building phased out of normal space-time, becoming invisible and intangible to the alien scanners. The patrol walked right through the walls without seeing anything. Sam stood in the middle of his lab watching alien soldiers pass through his equipment like ghosts. "What just happened?" he whispered, but there was no one to answer. The building remained phased for 6 hours before slowly returning to normal reality. Sam was still trying to understand what he had done when reports started coming in from around the world. Similar incidents were happening everywhere. A school in Tokyo had vanished for 3 days while alien forces searched for it. A hospital in London had become completely invisible during an enemy raid. Entire city blocks were phasing in and out of existence, protecting their human occupants from alien detection. Admiral Lisa Kane studied the reports from her lunar command center, trying to make sense of what was happening to her species. The scattered accounts seemed impossible, but they were coming from reliable sources all over Earth. "Elena, are you seeing this data?" she asked over the comm system. Dr. Vasquez looked up from her translation work, exhaustion clear in her voice. "I am, and I think I know what's causing it." The Vanguard records describe something called quantum consciousness integration. The planetary defense grid is connecting to human minds, teaching our species how to manipulate reality at the quantum level. You're saying our people are developing superpowers, not superpowers, enhanced abilities that were always part of human potential. The Vanguard designed Earth's life forms to be compatible with their technology. We're not becoming something new. We're becoming what we were always meant to be. Lieutenant Colonel Beth Rodriguez emerged from the underwater facility with her team, carrying data cores filled with Vanguard knowledge. The information she had gathered would change humanity's understanding of their place in the universe. "Admiral Kane," she reported over secure channels, "we've discovered the control systems for Earth's planetary defenses." The Vanguard didn't just build a weapon, they built a network that spans multiple dimensions. Earth is the central hub for defensive installations throughout the galaxy. The implications were staggering. Humanity wasn't just fighting for their own survival. They were inheriting responsibility for protecting all life in their region of space, from threats that existed beyond normal reality. Captain Ryan Bell noticed the changes in his crew during their retreat to the outer solar system. His chief engineer, Tony Martinez, was making modifications to the ship's engines that shouldn't have been possible with human technology. The changes made the Defiance faster and more maneuverable than any ship in the fleet. "Where did you learn to do that?" Bell asked, watching Tony work with components that seemed to grow rather than being installed. "I don't know, Captain. The knowledge just comes to me. It's like I suddenly understand how these systems are supposed to work." Other crew members were reporting similar experiences. The navigator could plot courses through space that folded distances in ways that violated known physics. The weapons officer was modifying their guns to fire energy that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The ship itself was changing too. The hull was becoming stronger and more flexible, adapting to damage automatically. New systems were growing throughout the vessel, integrating seamlessly with the original human technology. On Earth, the changes in the human population were accelerating. People discovered they could communicate telepathically across vast distances. Others found they could manipulate matter at the molecular level, turning debris into useful tools or weapons. Commander Morrison's group had grown from a dozen survivors to over 1,000 as word spread about their ability to avoid alien patrols. Jake's visions were becoming clearer and more detailed, showing him not just immediate threats but also the locations of other survivor groups in hidden Vanguard installations. "There's a facility beneath the city," he told his people during a meeting in an abandoned subway station. "It's been waiting for us. We need to get there." The journey through the ruins was dangerous, but Jake's enhanced senses guided them safely past alien checkpoints. When they reached the coordinates from his vision, they found a building that looked normal from the outside, but contained technology beyond human understanding. The moment Jake touched the central control panel, the facility recognized him as one of Earth's inheritors. Information flooded his mind, not just data but understanding. He learned that every human on the planet was connected to the defensive network, and that their growing abilities were part of a larger plan. Earth was preparing for a counterattack that would use the planet itself as a weapon. But first, humanity had to fully integrate with the Vanguard systems and learn to work together as a single organism spanning the globe. Dr. Vasquez made a breakthrough in understanding the scope of the Vanguard network. The ancient race had built similar installations on thousands of worlds, but most had remained dormant because the native species had never reached the required level of development. Earth was different. Humans had the right combination of intelligence, adaptability, and aggressive instincts to operate the full network. The Vanguard had waited millions of years for a species like humanity to evolve. The aliens think they're conquering a primitive world, Elena told Admiral Kane. They have no idea. They've just activated the most powerful defensive system in the galaxy. As she spoke, new signals were detected coming from deep space. Other Vanguard installations throughout the region were waking up, responding to Earth's activation. The network that had protected the galaxy for millions of years was coming back online. The real war was about to begin, and humanity was no longer the victim. They were becoming something the aliens had never faced before, a species with the power to reshape reality itself. Professor Nathan Cross stood in the vast archive chamber of the underwater Vanguard facility, surrounded by holographic displays that showed the true scope of Earth's defenses. The information was overwhelming but also terrifying in its implications. "Jenny, look at this," he called to his assistant, pointing at a three-dimensional map of local space. Earth isn't just sitting at the intersection of multiple dimensions. It's actively maintaining the barriers between them. Jenny Walsh studied the display, her face growing pale as she understood what she was seeing. "Professor, if something happened to Earth, these dimensional barriers would collapse. Our entire region of space would be exposed to whatever exists in those other realities." Nathan nodded grimly. The Vanguard records spoke of entities called the Void Wraiths, creatures that consumed entire galaxies by breaking down the walls between dimensions. Earth was the keystone that kept them locked away from normal space. On the surface, the alien bombardment had intensified. The Cathera commanders had detected the energy, signatures of awakening Vanguard systems, and were desperately trying to destroy Earth before whatever was happening could be completed. But their attacks were having the opposite effect. Every human who died in the bombardment somehow transferred their consciousness into the planetary grid, becoming part of a vast collective intelligence that spanned both the living and the dead. Commander Jake Morrison felt the change as he led his people through the ruins of Detroit. Voices whispered in his mind, not just his own thoughts, but the thoughts of every human connected to the network. He could sense Admiral Kane planning strategy on Luna, Captain Bell regrouping his fleet near Jupiter, and millions of other humans fighting for survival across Earth. "We're not alone anymore," he told Maria Santos as they approached another Vanguard facility. "I can feel them all. Every human on Earth, in space, even the ones who died in the attacks. We're becoming something bigger." The facility they entered was different from the others. This one was designed for combat operations, filled with weapon systems that defied human understanding. Jake approached the central console and felt the network rush through his mind, teaching him how to use tools that could reshape matter and energy at will. Captain Ryan Bell watched in amazement as his fleet transformed around him. The surviving human ships were no longer recognizable as the vessels they had been. Vanguard technology was growing through their hulls, turning them into hybrid craft that existed partially in normal space and partially in other dimensions. "Captain, you need to see this," called his navigator, Lisa Kim. "Our sensors are detecting space itself bending around the ship. We're not moving through space anymore, we're moving space around us." Bell studied the readings and realized that his fleet had become something unprecedented. They could travel instantly across vast distances by folding space-time, and their weapons could strike targets that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. "All ships, this is Bell. Prepare for combat operations." We're going back to Earth. Dr. Elena Vasquez made a disturbing discovery as she continued translating Vanguard records. The ancient race had seeded defensive systems on thousands of worlds, but Earth was their masterpiece, a world where the native species would eventually become capable of wielding the full power of the Vanguard legacy. But there was more. The record spoke of a cycle that repeated every few million years. The Void Wraiths would eventually break through the dimensional barriers, and the defensive network would need to be rebuilt from scratch. Earth's purpose was not just to guard against this threat, but to prepare humanity to take over the Vanguard's role as guardians of reality itself. Admiral Kane, she reported to the Lunar Command Center, we're not just inheriting Earth's defenses, we're inheriting responsibility for the entire galaxy. The Vanguard expected us to become the next generation of cosmic guardians. Admiral Lisa Kane felt the weight of that responsibility as she coordinated Earth's transformation from her command center. Reports were coming in from around the solar system of strange phenomena. Asteroids were moving into new configurations, forming geometric patterns that served some unknown purpose. The gas giants were emitting energy signatures that matched Vanguard technology. The entire solar system is part of the defense network, she realized. Jupiter, Saturn, all of them, they're not just planets. They're components in a massive machine. Lieutenant Colonel Beth Rodriguez led her team through a Vanguard facility in Antarctica that had emerged from beneath the ice. The installation was enormous, stretching deep into the Earth's crust and connecting to the planet's core. Here she discovered the truth about Earth's construction. The planet had originally been a lifeless rock orbiting a dying star. The Vanguard had moved it to the Sol system, hollow out its interior and filled it with the most sophisticated technology they could create. Earth's core wasn't molten iron. It was a quantum computer the size of a moon. The whole planet is thinking, she told her team in amazement. Earth itself is alive, and it's been waiting for us to wake up and join with it. As more humans connected to the planetary network, the collective intelligence grew stronger. People reported sharing memories with individuals they had never met, accessing knowledge from Vanguard archives directly through their thoughts, and understanding scientific concepts that should have taken years to learn. Sam Collins, the technician who had first discovered his phasing abilities, found himself in charge of a research team studying the quantum effects spreading across Earth. His laboratory had become a hub where displaced humans gathered to learn about their new capabilities. It's not magic, he explained to a group of refugees who could manipulate gravity with their minds. The Vanguard technology is teaching our brains to perceive and control quantum fields that were always there. We're not gaining new powers. We're learning to use senses we didn't know we had. The changes weren't limited to individual abilities. Entire cities were beginning to phase in and out of normal space-time, making them impossible for the alien forces to target effectively. The Cathara bombardment was becoming less and less effective as Earth's defensive systems fully activated. Professor Cross and his team made the most significant discovery, yet in the deepest levels of the underwater facility. They found the command center for the entire galactic defensive network, a chamber where Earth's planetary intelligence could coordinate with similar systems on thousands of other worlds. The network has been dormant for millions of years, Jenny reported as she studied the massive displays. But it's waking up. Installations throughout this region of the galaxy are responding to Earth's activation signal. Nathan realized that humanity's fight with the Kithra was just the beginning. Once Earth's defenses were fully online, they would become the central command for a network that protected countless civilizations from interdimensional threats. The aliens had made a terrible mistake. They thought they were conquering a primitive world, but they had actually triggered the awakening of an ancient guardian system. Earth was preparing to reclaim its role as the defender of local space, and humanity was becoming the species the Vanguard had always intended them to be. As the planet's transformation accelerated, reality itself began to shift around Earth. Space-time became fluid in the vicinity of the world, bending and twisting in ways that made conventional physics meaningless. The Cathara fleet found themselves dealing with phenomena their science couldn't explain. The darkness that had answered Earth's call wasn't evil or threatening. It was the shadow of an ancient network coming back to life, with humanity as its inheritors and operators. The real battle was about to begin, and this time Earth would not be the victim. The final battle began not with explosions or weapons fire, but with Earth itself changing into something beyond the Kithra's comprehension. The planet's surface rippled with energy fields that existed in 11 dimensions simultaneously, creating patterns of light and shadow that hurt to look at directly. Commander Jake Morrison stood in the primary control chamber beneath Chicago, his consciousness now fully integrated with Earth's planetary intelligence. Through the network, he could perceive every human on the planet, every ship in space, and every ancient installation awakening across the galaxy. "It's time," he said, though his words echoed in the minds of every connected human, rather than being spoken aloud. Around the world, millions of people nodded in understanding and took their positions at Vanguard control systems that had waited millions of years for this moment. Captain Ryan, Bell's transformed fleet emerged from the dimensional shadows near Earth like ghosts becoming solid. His ships no longer followed the laws of physics as humans understood them. They could exist in multiple locations simultaneously, phase through solid matter, and fire weapons that struck targets across vast distances by folding space itself. "All vessels, this is Bell. Begin the counterattack." The Kithara commanders aboard their massive ships watched in horror as space around Earth became impossible to understand. Human vessels appeared from nowhere, seemingly ignoring their shields and armor to strike directly at vital systems. Their sensors showed enemy ships in dozens of locations at once, as if reality itself had become uncertain. Admiral Lisa Kane coordinated the battle from her lunar command center, but she was no longer limited to conventional communications. Through the planetary network, she could direct human forces across the solar system with the speed of thought, responding to threats and opportunities faster than any computer system. "Dr. Vasquez, what's the status on the Galactic Network?" she asked. Elena Vasquez, now serving as Earth's primary interface with the ancient Vanguard systems, showed her a holographic display of local space. Points of light were activating throughout their region of the galaxy as dormant installations responded to Earth's call. 43 worlds have fully activated their defensive systems, Elena reported. The Kithara Empire is finding their conquered territories in open rebellion. Their slave worlds are being liberated by technology they can't understand or fight. Professor Nathan Cross and his team had become the keepers of Vanguard historical knowledge, understanding the full scope of what humanity was inheriting. From the depths of the ocean facility, he provided crucial information about enemy weaknesses and tactical options. "The Kithara have never faced anything like this," he explained to the network. "Their entire military doctrine is based on conventional physics. They can't adapt to weapons that operate outside normal space-time." The alien fleet tried to retreat, but escape was impossible. Earth's defensive field had expanded to encompass the entire solar system, trapping the invaders in a region where human forces controlled the fundamental laws of reality. Lieutenant Colonel Beth Rodriguez led the assault on the Kithara flagship, her team moving through walls and armor as if they didn't exist. The alien soldiers tried to fight back, but their weapons couldn't target enemies that existed partially in other dimensions. "Bridge secured," she reported as her team captured the alien command center. Around her, the Kithara commanders stared in terror at humans who could walk through their most advanced defenses like they were made of air. The surrender came quickly after that. The remaining Kithara ships found themselves surrounded by human vessels that could appear anywhere instantly, while their own weapons were useless against targets that existed in multiple realities simultaneously. But the victory over the Kithara was just the beginning. As Earth systems reached full activation, signals began arriving from across the galaxy. Other species that had been enslaved by various empires were calling for help, guided by the awakening Vanguard network to humanity's location. Sam Collins, now serving as Earth's coordinator for dimensional research, studied the incoming messages with growing amazement. "Admiral Kane, we're receiving distress calls from hundreds of civilizations. The galactic community has been waiting for someone to restart the Vanguard network." Admiral Kane realized that humanity's role was expanding far beyond defending Earth. They were becoming the guardians of galactic civilization itself, inheriting a responsibility that spanned thousands of worlds and millions of species. Commander Morrison felt the weight of this new role as he processed information from across the galaxy. The Vanguard had fought a desperate war against the Void Wraiths millions of years ago, barely managing to contain the interdimensional threat before their civilization collapsed. Now humanity would need to be ready when that ancient enemy inevitably returned. We need to prepare for what's coming, he told the collective human consciousness through the network. The Cathera were just the first test. There are worse things out there. Things that exist between realities and consume entire galaxies. Dr. Vasquez discovered the full scope of the threat as she delved deeper into Vanguard archives. The Void Wraiths were not just another alien species. They were entities from a dying universe that sought to invade and consume healthy realities. Earth's defensive network was all that stood between them and countless inhabited worlds. The barriers are weakening, she reported to Admiral Kane. The Vanguard network has been dormant too long. We have perhaps 1,000 years before the Void Wraiths break through again. We need to use that time to strengthen the defenses and prepare other species to help us. The transformation of human civilization accelerated as more people connected to the planetary network. Children born after the activation showed abilities that previous generations could never have imagined. They could perceive 11 dimensions naturally, communicate across vast distances through quantum entanglement, and manipulate matter and energy with their thoughts. Captain Bell's fleet had become the core of a new space navy that operated according to principles that would have seemed like magic to earlier generations. His ships could travel instantly between star systems, existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, and carried weapons powered by the fundamental forces of the universe. We're no longer just defending Earth, he told his crews as they prepared for their next mission. We're taking back the galaxy. The liberation campaigns began immediately. Human forces, working with newly activated Vanguard installations, systematically dismantled every empire that had built itself on conquest and slavery. Species that had been oppressed for thousands of years found themselves suddenly free, protected by technology that made their former masters helpless. Earth became the center of a new galactic civilization, one based on cooperation and mutual defense rather than conquest. The planet itself served as both capital and command center, its consciousness linked to defensive installations throughout local space. Admiral Kane, now serving as Earth's first-dimensional admiral, oversaw the integration of liberated worlds into the defensive network. Each species brought their own knowledge and abilities to the collective, strengthening the barriers that protected reality itself from interdimensional threats. The story concluded with Earth transformed beyond recognition. The blue world that had once seemed so fragile now pulsed with energy fields that could be seen from neighboring star systems. Humanity had evolved from a single-planet species struggling to survive into the inheritors of an ancient legacy that made them guardians of galactic civilization. But Jake Morrison, still serving as one of Earth's primary interfaces with the planetary intelligence, knew that their greatest challenges lay ahead. The Void Wraiths would return eventually, and when they did, humanity and their allies would need to be ready to defend not just their own reality, but all possible realities from an enemy that consumed universes. The darkness had answered Earth's call, but it had brought with it responsibilities that would challenge humanity for generations to come. They were no longer just survivors fighting for their world. They were the guardians of existence itself, standing watch against threats that lurked in the spaces between realities. The war for Earth was over. The war for everything else was just beginning.